No one really knows what's going on, but Ernie, I wanted to ask you because I know you were on CNN. You're more plugged in maybe to the NBA than myself. Do you know what's going on? I was going to say and Vince, but I don't want to speak for him. Adam Silver said he'll be making a decision in 2 to 4 weeks, but have you heard anything? Where do you think the NBA is going?
Hey, Andy, be real. He'll be making a decision in 4 weeks.
Okay.
The longer they can wait, the better for them. We know that.
That's a good point, too, Vince. The more time that you have, because the situation is so fluid. Look, I go back to the night after play was stopped. Okay, so we're talking March 12th, that Thursday night, March 12th. And so there are no games, but we're still going to do a show, because everything had been suspended on the 11th. And we're going to do an hour-long show at 8:00. No doubleheader to follow. Shaq's with me. Kenny's with me. Charles joins us from his hotel room because he's just been tested for coronavirus. And so we don't know what the deal is there. But I know in looking at the numbers as I got ready for that show, and we're going to have Adam Silver on at the top of the show to give us the latest. There had been 40 deaths in the United States on March 12th. And now, what are we, 85,000? And it's almost impossible to even comprehend that. Yeah. Say there have been 40 people in the United States that died of COVID-19. And so as Adam talked to us that night, he was like, well, look, it's March 12th, and we're not doing anything. We're not saying anything really until April at the earliest. And then April comes and goes, and now we're May, and it's how many of those burning questions have been answered? Not many. How many of those questions we had on March 12th have had definitive answers at this point? Not many. And so while it's encouraging from time to time to hear, okay, the Board of Governors met and they're pretty upbeat and, something like that. Do they know something we don't know? Do they know something that the American public doesn't know about the safety that can be ensured when and if play resumes, that kind of thing? It's funny because I was talking to Charles today. We have a podcast. It's called The Steam Room, and it's available wherever you get your podcast.
That was a great plug.
Real? Okay.
Thank you.
Well done.
I thought it was rather seamless, but
it was.
Of course that's the way I view it. But we were talking about the same thing, and I said, Chuck, if you were playing right now, would you be up for returning to play right now, or what kind of assurances do you need? And he's like, I don't know if right now I could say, yeah, I'm ready to go back and play. He was saying, I need an assurance about where we're staying, about hotel staff, about this or that, and if someone tests positive. There are just so many of those questions still out there. And Vince, you're a current player, so you look, and obviously your team is playing out the string. If you're going to finish out the regular season, okay, you don't have to worry about, okay, how are we going to do the playoffs? But you're looking at that same question right now, and it's like, what do you need to hear, Vince, to say, sure, I'm in?
And that's the crazy thing about it, because we had a conversation about it today, and it's just so many what ifs that need to be answered. It's not a few; it's a lot of what ifs, and you hit a lot of the major ones on the head right there. But it's so many what ifs. The staff, and does everyone need to be quarantined? When you talk about different locations, you're talking about, I hear people all the time. It's like, yeah, I hear you might go to the Bahamas. I hear you might go to Toronto, and all of these different. Orlando was Wide World of Sports. I said, okay, let's think about this. You're talking about 30 teams with 15 to 17 players plus staff, and you're trying to put them in hotels. You have to quarantine the bus drivers, everybody who works in the hotel. Everybody has to stay in this bubble, and that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of questions, and you have to figure all of these things out. And how many people are willing to be away from their families that long, or, whatever the case may be. So just as of right now, it's kind of just like, we need to be a little more educated on what's going on. I mean, like right now, you feel comfortable knowing a little bit about it. But when you talk about now playing,
it's a hard call, man.
It's a hard call. Absolutely.
Even though you want to play. I mean, this is what you do, Vince. This is what you've done your whole life. This is what of course you want to play. But at what but
we want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And of those people you mentioned, Vince, I'm surprised still that there's the people who don't think it's that serious, who would be the outliers of the people leaving the campus or not in quarantine when they say they are quarantined. Because I still run in with people like on social media who are having parties and stuff like that. And you have to imagine there's a few of those within the NBA sphere of some kind.
Of course. Just think of the amount of young guys in the NBA, like who are right now. So we're fortunate to have family, like even for yourself. And you have somebody, but that you share a apartment with, but just think about these young guys who are young in the NBA living in an apartment by themselves. So it's just like, I have family, I have friends, that whatever, but they have friends, but it's like at some point you just I got to get outside. I have to be young, wild and free, so you have to think about all of these things. And now you're talking about trying to keep a hold of thousands of people to keep everyone safe to play basketball. And, it's just a lot. It's just a lot it's a lot of things that have to happen, and it has to be seamless. It has to be perfect, because if you have one mishap, everything's blown up.
Yep. And I know this is a hard question, but Ernie, if you had to make a decision, Adam Silver wanted to know what you thought the league should do, what would be your recommendation?
No, I mean, I've said from day one, and I said to Adam in our interview, in fact, probably in both times that we talked to him, I talked to him on that night that after the play was suspended, and I talked to him on the first episode of that NBA Together. And I said, you bet, in my mind, you just got to be sure. In my mind, you can't have any, well, let's hope. In my mind, you have to say, we have every eventuality covered. If this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. Now, and if one of those is, well, if this team has somebody test positive, then they have to quarantine, and they're a playoff team, then look, you can't do that. Yeah. And so to me, and look, I've been covering this league for 30 years, and I love the game, and I love playoff time. But I also know that, look, if we don't have a champion this year, it's not the worst thing in the world that could happen. And so that's the way. I mean, I would love to go back to work. I'd love to be back hanging with my guys and talking about the NBA and seeing who's going to make the playoffs, and then see how we're going to get this carried off. But man, you just got to be smart. And I think the league has been very proactive in doing that. I think they've been throwing a lot of ideas out there and seeing what sticks. How about Orlando? How about Vegas? How about this? Just to see, because if you just sit here and say, well, we're not going to do anything until somebody says it's okay, then you're way behind. So you have to look at eventualities. But man, for what's at stake, and then you throw into that whole thing also the economic part of it. I mean, it's a very tough time to be the guy who's making that decision. And I'm glad it's not.
Absolutely.
Yep.